This conference will now be recorded.
Going down there, you mean?
Yeah.
Right, we'll do it.
Yeah, because it's like over there.
So just
too.
remember, guys, the recording is
40
going.
feet away from.
That's okay for a public hearing, but
Right.
Audio and
big crowd. But this is so much better for the board to talk.
Yeah.
I can carry you too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I can't.
My dad was.
Yeah.
Get a little tough. Get
I can
all
get
those cords.
They're not sure they like having me on there already, so we'll just see.
No, I'm trying.
Short-lived.
That's good.
The mayor likes me, and the rest of the staff, me.
Well, I think
Germs.
to me, it looks kind of like
Thank
the
you.
Spearfish City staff might have got a little.
Just remember, this is.
Anyway,
Maybe
maybe that's good.
They think they run the
You can
whole
mute it for
Yeah,
now.
they've kind of forgot the hierarchy.
Right, bud.
Yeah.
That's meeting,
Here's how you're going to do it.
P&Z director.
You get it?
Who's the new
This conference will now be recorded.
Call the meeting to order. First item is the approval of the minutes from the September 1 meeting. Are there any changes, corrections?
To approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, post same sign. The agenda, any changes, Amber?
Item M, as in mom, has been pulled. They're still having some issues with it.
Okay, good enough. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda then. That's a change.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Conflicts of interest. Anyone have anything pertaining to the agenda? Okay, we're good to go. First item is a public hearing for CUP number 481, Jeremy and Tanya Williams. Our format for a public hearing is that the applicant makes their presentation to the board. Once they're done, we turn it over to the audience for any comments that might be wanted to be said. If you want to make a comment, please stand up and state your name and your address each and every time. We are a recorded meeting, and that helps the recorded and figure out who we are. And after a time of audience input, turn it back to the applicant for anything more they might have to say. Then we'll turn it back to the audience for a second time for any comments. Again, sorry if you want to speak again, yes, give your name and address once again. And once that's done, I'll close the public hearing. Amber, please go ahead and start.
First item is public hearing for Jeremy and Tanya Williams, Lot 2C, which is out in Majestic Heights, Boulder Canyon area. It is zoned highway service commercial within that Majestic Heights subdivision. And they are proposing to build 5 cabins, renting them out, little nightly rentals, tree house-ish, we'll say. There's not a lot of trees, but they're going to make them be kind of up and look like a tree house by the time they're done. And we did go through this. This one's a little different because it's zoned highway service commercial, so we have to keep that in mind. It's not a Park Forest zoned piece of property. It's actually zoned commercial. But you come off of Matson Lane and you turn down into the Majestic Heights subdivision to get to it. And you can kind of see proposals here, where it's at. There's really nothing, the 5 smaller cabins. The access from the DOT highway is already controlled access. It's already existing, so we don't have to have any new access points off of the DOT Heights road. Mr. Winter, I did request from him something from the road district and the fact that it's on water, because Majestic Heights has a well system. He did email that, and it's included in your packet that he was comfortable with what they were doing. I asked him beforehand just so we didn't get to this point and have anything. So he's done that. The conditions are similar to what we've seen in other conditions like these. Basically like a campground condition, all the conditions are in there. The last few is I put in here, number 24, no RV sites shall be permitted. We've done that on a couple of them. 25, a maximum of 5 cabins allowed. And then I had number 26 in there, the active road district shall send a letter to allow commercial nature of the added traffic to the road for commercial usage as well as the well, but he's done that already. So I actually got that part already. So that's all I have. Williams are here if you have any specific questions for them. They did provide you in your packet a summary of what they want to do, a detailed site plan, a copy of their existing plat, and then kind of some general layout of what the cabins will look like. And then they have already done their sewer portion. They have some perk tests done and stuff to make sure it would all work for what they did. So they've done a lot of the stuff that we've been having come up the last couple of conditional use permit applications already.
Okay.
So that's all I have.
Anything further the Williams wish to add to what Amber's presented? Okay. Is anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to this matter? Please stand up, state your name and your address.
Hi, Deb Davis, 11753 East Rebar Circle, right across the road. I just am wondering with these particular cabins, which is a campsite, right? Will there be a resident on site 24/7 since they're doing it 7 days a week and all of that?
You might be able to answer that in this rebuttal. Anybody else? No one? Turn it back to the applicant. Do you have anything further you'd like to add?
Jeremy Williams, 12191 South Road, Denton, South Dakota, 57732. Yeah, at this time, that was not our initial plan. We saw that was in the requirements and that's what we're about to follow. So yeah, we have somebody there.
Okay. Thank you. Back to the audience. Anybody wish to speak? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing, turn it over to the board. What are your thoughts and wishes, concerns?
I'd noticed that in the letter that they had there, it said they weren't gonna have allow any ATVs or recreational vehicle stuff in there. But that's not in I didn't see it in this anywhere. Did they just get missed or do we not need it or?
Well, that's up to you guys. If you want to add that as a condition, you can.
Do you guys want that or what was your reason for putting that in the letter?
Amber had stated that, Jeremy Williams, 12191 South Road.
He's addressing.
Okay, all right, sorry. Amber had stated that with it being a development, that would probably be a good idea. They're kind of trying to keep that out of that housing development up above, a lot of ATVs and stuff. And I thought it was a fine idea to not have people exiting from the campground with ATVs and stuff. If they were there and had them on a trailer and could take them somewhere else and do that, we were fine with that, but to not have people, we definitely don't want anything tore up around us or in the development with ATVs and stuff.
So what
wouldn't be opposed to a condition then? No.
Okay. So we could take the, I have to think of the one that we did that on. It was, I can find it. We have wording. Yeah, I can't think of which one it is, but we have wording where it basically said no ATV or UTV usage could originate from that location. Right. They could have them on the back of their trailer, and they could take their truck and their trailer to one of the sites to go from, but not leaving from that location.
So do we want to enforce that though? Do we want it in our conditions or do we just want to let them put it in?
Oh, do you want another job?
Well, a conditional use permit, if it happens, it's going to go on them. You guys can pull the CUP if it's in the condition.
That's true.
So whoever makes the motion can add that to the conditions.
I didn't add it. I asked about it.
He didn't make a motion yet.
There's no motion being made.
I'll try it out loud. I'll make the motion to add that.
Okay. Discussion?
What's that?
He wants to make a motion to add that to the conditions.
With approval of the
separating it from approval, sounds
okay.
like, yeah. So we're just dealing with the conditions evidently, and I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Any other comments or concerns or motions?
I'll make a motion for approval of the request.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay.
Okay, so motion was approved, we'll add the no ATV, UTV usage leaving from that location. I'll find the wording that we've had in the other one. And then it goes to County Commission at October 25th at 9 a.m. It'll go in front of the County Commissioners.
Thank you.
Yes, I will take those. No.
No.
Because then I'll not get these in the right
Gotcha.
packet, and then I get confused with them.
All right.
Okay.
Good to go?
Yep.
Next item is another public hearing. I don't see anybody new and improved, so with same rules apply. It's a public hearing for change of zoning 354 Black Hills LLC, Steel Wheel Campground. Amber, start us out.
Yep. Paul, can you hear us there?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so I'll go through a review, and then if there's any questions, you can speak up.
Okay.
So this is for Black Hills LLC Steel Wheel Campground. Steel Wheel Campground has sold here recently. Paul has been to a meeting before. He could not make it today, so he asked if he could call in this way. Basically what they're looking at doing is on the back side, there's 11 acres on the back side of the current Steel Wheel Campground, that there has been some overflow usage happening on it. But they would like to incorporate that into a recreation commercial zoning district, so park forest to recreation commercial. And as part of that recreation commercial, they will be coming in with a development plan to utilize it for some additional long-term sites and cabins. It is right next to the existing campground plus the recreation commercial zoning district that we just did for Hidden Valley Campground, which is the adjacent property. And it's right along the ATV, UTV trail system. The access to the parcel of land is through an existing private easement crossing the current Steel Wheel property. He owns both parcels, so it's okay to do that. And I think other than that, you can read the rest of it. Staff recommendation is to approve, to go to that recreation commercial district. And he has provided a letter with the deed stuff, just because it was a recent sale, a write-up of kind of what they're overall and how it meets the zoning requirements, plus a map, just a real quick. I did not require a site plan with this because it's a change of zoning, not a conditional use permit or anything yet, but he wanted to give you a general idea of kind of what they were looking at doing. That is all I have in there. Paul, do you have anything else to add?
Nope, I have nothing to add, and just wanted to thank everybody for letting me participate through the website.
I did forget to mention this letter is in there as well from Lisa Sabino. She is concerned with some concerns, similar concerns to what she has voiced in the past.
Thank you. Is anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to this? No one. Okay. Anything further from the applicant?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. Audience, anyone? Close public hearing. Board, what do you think? Everybody's good with it or bad with it, or? Got a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Second. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Paul, do you want me to send this packet with people in the room, or do you want me to keep it for you? Because you'll have to send some more notices out.
You can just keep it, and I'll pick it up.
It's Jim, right? Jim is here. Do you want him to take
Oh,
it?
Jim is here. Yeah, you can go ahead and give it to him. Sure.
Okay. Right on the end there. All right, so he's taking your packet for the next round.
Yep, that's fine.
You're done then for today.
All right. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Next item is recommendation meeting for variance number 205, Kissick Water and Oil Services. When you're ready, Amber, go ahead and hit us up on that.
Is anybody here for this particular one? Well, that's weird. Okay. Is anybody online for the Kissick one? Got somebody there, but nobody's talking.
Okay.
Okay. There you are. I was like, there's no way they're not here.
Oh, yeah, we're here. We just out there busy.
Is it just you, or is there more?
Just me. Yep.
Just you, okay.
No stranger today.
Okay. So this is a variance request. Now, we don't see a lot of variance requests like this. There is a lot of information here. There is a application, the request summary. So I am going to probably just pull up that summary. There it is. All right, so the summary request, the Kissick tract is what it's for, and this is from Al Schreier, put this summary request together. And basically what they're asking for is a variance is for a cul-de-sac exceeding the required length of 800 feet, serving lots between 3 and 10 acres. The proposed length of the cul-de-sac is 3,390 feet. To remedy the length, it is being proposed to construct a 32-foot gravel surface road. It is proposed the extra width will make the road safer than a short 24-foot wide road. They feel that the request is based on a hardship due to the configuration of the property and the zoning, which is A2. The property is generally long and narrow. Bringing a road back to the beginning to form a loop is excessive, requiring roads on all sides of lots or duplication of road access. The property being zoned A2 requires 8 acres lot size minimum. These are large parcels to get around with a good loop road in such a narrow configuration. Terrain also has something to do with the road layout, as there are some areas of steep terrain that are not conducive to road construction. The roads have to work around the areas. The project is in an area relatively untouched by more dense development. There are no adjoining roads to connect with. Some provision to extend roads to the neighboring property has been provided. The owners are trying to maintain some sense of the open space of Lawrence County. It is an open grassland. The layout plan did come before you guys and went to the county commission last month. Yeah, it was last month.
Yes.
The plan has been modified in that the western, north, and southbound road has been shortened to a cul-de-sac 370 feet in length. Private access and utility easements on the 16th line, and the upper east road crossing to the western side has been deleted. So from the layout plan that they presented to now, they did make a few changes to that original. I'm gonna try this one. Maybe. Try and blow that up a little bit. Kind of hard to see. So here's your, if we go overall property, we'll kind of do that context here. Here's your overall property. Here's your railroad crossing, kind of right at, St. Ange Road. You're going down St. Ange Road. Here's your railroad crossing. If that kind of helps give you a little context of where you're at.
North is to the right, or,
Yeah. Yep. Yep, north arrows to the right, yeah. But this is kind of general context of roads, the length of the cul-de-sac. It's different than what we normally see. I think everybody read my staff report, but from a staff perspective, I would have a hard time issuing a variance on this because it in no way does it meet our ordinance. It's a lot of cul-de-sac. I understand the other aspects of it, but that's why it's before you guys as a variance. I was not comfortable in issuing an exception to their request. And then they did go to county commission, and I think the county commission said if they wanted to present something, you know, that kind of says, this is why we're doing it, why we're asking for it, they could look at it. In as many years as I've been in this office, we've never issued a variance to a subdivision ordinance before, like an actual variance. We've done exceptions like for a 200-foot length, but not for 2,000 feet.
times.
That's almost half a mile.
It's over half a mile.
That's
over 3/4.
Elkhorn Ridge, that would be.
Yeah.
Well, above the,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, you're right.
Over
That's a
here.
huge difference. Like y'all need
And-
yeah, I went.
Yeah, I think there's gotta be a better way to figure it out.
In your, staff report at the back is your, like, I put two pieces in there. One was the subdivision regulation variance, procedure. It is listed in there, that it's something you can look at, but it says the county commission, granted, this is planning and zoning, because this has to go to county commission either way, but the county commission may grant variances from the title when strict compliance would result in an undue hardship to the developer applicant, and if it would not adversely affect the public. Granting of this variance shall not affect or nullify the intent and purpose of the title. And then it talks about the extra criteria when considering a subdivision regulation variance request. You have to determine that the granting of the variance will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or general welfare, or injurious to other adjoining properties, because of the particular physical surrounding, shape, or topographic conditions of the specific property involved. An undue hardship to the owner would result if the strict letter of the title were enforced. The variance will not cause a substantial increase in public costs. The variance will not in any manner place the subdivision in non-conformance to the comprehensive plan. And then basically they have to provide a written statement, which they've done. They've done the written statement, and then you guys can do conditions on it if you want to, or just give a recommendation, like you normally do with the variance. You would give a recommendation to the county commissioners, and then the county commissioners would have to decide from there.
I think it would be, there should be a different way of doing it, and that cul-de-sac length rule is in there for a reason. And if it was a 20 feet or something ordinance or difference, it'd be a little more forgiving, but I think it'd be a bad precedent too, because we've had other people that have wanted to do long cul-de-sacs, and we told them no. If the commissioners wanted to change something, I'd be okay with that, but I think here I'd have to go against it.
Well, they came before us and offered to widen it out for further safety.
Yeah, that's.
And I look at it as, it's not being injurious to the surrounding area as well as their own, so I'm gonna favor it.
Well,
But I'm just one peanut in the jar.
yeah. We have these for a reason. And to give a variance is huge. And it seems to me there's a place to run the road back down to the other road from that cul-de-sac. And anybody can write up that little story on any variance. It's not injurious to other people. Well, we have to be concerned with people living here, so I'm opposed to if the motion was to come up that you deny.
Move to deny.
Got a motion to deny, got a second. Discussion on the motion.
What would be your reason for denial based on the ordinance that I just read to you?
Based on the ordinance and the exorbitant length of the
Cul-de-sac, the length of the cul-de-sac. Would you agree with that for your second?
Yes.
Any discussion on the motion the clarification of reason.
I have a question for Amber. So, Amber, financial things don't enter into it if it's difficult to build a road and it's.
County shouldn't be looking at what it costs something to be developed. That's up to the developer to decide.
We don't look at a business and that business is gonna fail, so we won't approve it that thing, so, yeah.
If I looked at cost, I'd have, oh my God.
You need to know.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carried.
I figured you're gonna go to county commission stuff that most people do. So, here's your sign, needs to be posted.
Okay.
Here's your letter of what you need to do next for county commission. We have you scheduled,
You know,
is that right, 25th, Jan?
Yes.
wow, this
Yeah, 25th at 9:30. So
Too
we'll
big
send
of
it
a
to the paper and
precedent
do
to
the
set.
normal process. For variance procedure, it's pretty normal.
Got the rules, draw it up and follow the rules.
Who wants this?
bypass.
I think I'm the only one here to represent,
Okay,
so I'll take it.
so
Get
make
out of
sure it
here.
gets back to your box, because I know it won't be you that.
You're dang right about that. My sister it is. She didn't-
Exactly.
Yeah.
Big bench, is that right?
Yep. Informational meeting, change of zoning name for 355 for Jet and Mallory Mills, Amber.
And are you guys present? Okay, perfect. So this is a change of zoning request from A1 General Agricultural to Park Forest. The applicants are requesting to rezone to allow the higher density in order to build one additional structure on the 40 acres. They probably end up breaking it off onto a 5-acre chunk, is kind of how I gathered of what the plan is. They've provided a letter in your packets already, and I have it up here as well, that kind of just explains their overall. They went through the process of kind of laying it out where it's located. I'm not going to read it in theory because you guys have it all, but it's there. They went through that whole process. Here's kind of the general layout of the site that they're looking at doing. So well, metal building, septic site, all of that is there. Here's the general location. And we can pull it up on the GIS account, but here's the other one. It's this parcel right here. But currently zoned ag. You can go to, we don't see it very often, to go from ag to park forest, but we have a few times where it's like right on the boundary, where it's an ag on one side and park
Which
forest
this
on the
is,
other.
right?
This right is.
I'm surprised this isn't already in Park Forest.
It used to be, we had a county commissioner for several years ago, we got it, all, that whole area changed from workforce to ag.
Oh, I probably
He
know
lives
that.
out there.
Yeah.
So, this is just the first meeting, it's an informational, but do you guys have anything else to add to it? Or is that kind of the gist of what you had to say?
Nathan Chequin, attorney for the mill, the Mercy Invention Law Firm, 516 Sixth Street, Rapid City. That's the gist of it. Amber is the applicants, the owners want to, they are going to need to subdivide, and plat. I think they're just within the 3-mile, jurisdiction of the city of Spearfish. So they intend to carve off a 5-acre parcel, for this mill, parent, actually, for a secondary home. So it's really just about density. They are not immediately adjacent to Park Forest. There's a couple hundred feet
But I'm gonna pull it up and see.
if you look at the map there, on the northeast corner of the subject property, there's actually a 60-acre parcel next to them. So there's kind of that 20-acre, piece that would lie between them and the nearest Park Forest, zone. But based on how much, park forest zone is
So there's your, so Higgins is here, there's Park Forest, so you've got this little piece here. So it's still within density, doesn't have a direct corner touching it. I thought it did, I thought this lot line was right here. Well, there's a little.
But for what it's worth,
Yep.
the owner is, communication on good terms with that neighbor's, utility provider, and has helped them get electricity and stuff to their property, but, of course, we'll, you know, give out notice to everybody. Go through the process, so.
It's just informational today, unless you have any specific, you know, questions. They're in that borderline. I mean, it's close. So they can go through the
Good way to
process.
correct a wrong.
All right, fine. I had a CUP sign for some reason.
Park Forest too?
Say that again.
They have to be willing, unless we, yeah.
Maybe we can give Amber the tools to make them work.
It'll be coming. We'll talk about it later. This is the packet which has your notifications in there.
That
You
was
run
our
upstairs and grab the right sign.
back on land.
We have a
Wait.
down here. Now we'll change the zoning.
Oh, thank you.
He'll be right back down with it.
And changed all of that stuff behind wild.
Got both of them out.
Oh, there it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it leans towards that more now.
Fix the definition.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's a good one.
Okay. We are on plat.
Flats, yeah. Final plat for Dakota Energy and Resources.
I gotta think here. I gotta read.
You're right, take your time.
Okay, this is, you guys actually approved the preliminary on this. It was a while ago. I don't remember when. You approved the preliminary. This is just the final plat. This is the property out off of Nemo Road. And it was, they're gonna split the Jack Redden, well, the Alsop load, mineral survey load into 2 lots. And part of it is going to, the South Dakota Board of Regents. I don't know if you remember that. We had to make sure that they had their 40-foot access easement just in case there was an easement question or problem at some time. And they have done that. We have all of that in place. So the 40-foot access easement is in there, and we got a letter of completion on August 30th for their fire plan. So they were working on their fire plan part before the final plat was approved. So we did.
Good.
Yep, we got the letter and everything's good to go.
Thoughts, concerns from the board? Or motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Second.
Don't you want that easement recorded prior to the plat, so you can put the easement document number on the plat?
Yeah, we'll have to. Yep.
So should that be part of the?
You can do that. I saw they left a blank for it, so we'll just fill it in because the easement has to be, say that again?
I think they got it on.
Oh, did they, is it on your Mylar there in front of you? The very first one. They might have filled it in. They might have got it done.
I think they did.
About right where your, up
Right in the
from where your finger is. You're right on the line.
Yes, they have the numbers.
Okay, it's there now.
We've got a motion and a second, do we not?
Mm-hmm.
All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Did you get that?
Preliminary and final plat for Boulder Canyon Country Club.
All right, so Boulder Canyon Country Club, we've been seeing, you know, over the years, we've seen that change quite a bit. But they are in the process of doing a clubhouse track. So it's actually Boulder Canyon Country Club and I believe Four Bears in the Hills they stay as part of that for right now as well. And they would like to, I'm gonna go to the plat itself so you can see it. It's easier. This is the second page of it, but it's a little cleaner. So this shows the easement coming through, and here's the clubhouse track down here. Originally, they were hoping to sell some of this to, like, actually have the Boulder Canyon Country Club take ownership of it. But money-wise, it's just really expensive to do that. So Forebears in the Hills have decided to build the building. They will build the clubhouse and have it all built, but they're going to lease back space to the country club instead of having them build the building and own the land. So they've come to an agreement to do that instead. They would like to start working on that, and so that's what this clubhouse track, they're making it just a little bit smaller, and, you know, I don't know if they'll probably end up doing some financing or something on it to get the clubhouse built. But the actual country club was not in a financial position to build an entire new structure right now. Everybody knows how expensive it is to build. We don't have to do that. It was part of their PUD originally.
Are those buildings?
These are the proposed structures. So if you look at the, we'll go back one page here. It's basically the layout of the clubhouse.
I'm a little slow. Where's this at compared to the original clubhouse?
The original clubhouse, so this line right here is the country club, so it would be what, probably like hole 9-ish? That doesn't help you. So the country club is,
it's right
here's
by
the
the sewer
clubhouse.
we're going.
It's on the back side of it, in that open valley there.
Gotcha, okay.
So then that's like where where they put in the new, all the holes in that valley there. So the other country club is going to be way kind of over in this vicinity because it's not on the property.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And so it's going to be like right over here.
No, they're doing all the grading going into that already.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And they're putting that second building has gone up for the extension of the sewer and stuff. It's like back behind that if you're out on the highway.
It's right by the highway.
It's right down here on the utility tract. Right here.
There's like a utility shed there.
Mm-hmm.
Not too far away.
So there's a preliminary and a final plat. The subdivision already has the fire plan, roads, and utilities in place. The extension of the services would be right there. The HOA is there, community water system, community wastewater treatment facility. Mike Short did send me an update as of 10/3. The Nyman Timber was contracted back in August of 2020 to do all of it, and it's been done for quite some time. We haven't seen any new, growth down in there. They're still hoping to continue to burn piles this winter, which that's been hard for anybody to burn piles lately. And then that's where he got into the original agreement with the Boulder Canyon Golf Club still stands, but they will not be transferring the ownership now. Instead, Apple Springs will be building and owning the new structure and will lease back space in the building for the golf club.
Okay, we'll address preliminary plat first.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Second. Discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Final plat. Thank you. Discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Motion carries.
We've got lots of Apple Springs, so I'll just keep talking if you want.
You keep going.
So the next one is lots 1 through 7, block 19. You guys saw the preliminary plat for this one and approved it already. This is the final plat, but as part of that, we asked for the remaining infrastructure to be, the bond. That's what it was. The bond, the commission approved the bond, was it last month? I think it was last month. Commission approved the bond for the remainder of it, and so it's good to go. It matches exactly what they submitted in the preliminary plat.
Entertain the motion one way or another. Thank you. Discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Preliminary and final for Forebears again.
Next one, okay, so this is the second part. You had 1 through 7, and now you have 8 through 11. I think the only reason why it was split up is because they had already started the 1 through 7 process before the bond got in place, so it just took timing wise. Yep, so still covered by the bond, same thing. This one we did have them do an amended preliminary with 8 through 11. And the reason for that was they had to change the road layout a little bit, so we did have them amend that, just so we show why it changed.
Very good.
KLJ did the amendment part. I think what they ended up doing is actually rerouting the road in the actual location because the road is built.
Do you want the wording amended in the motion?
Sure, if you want to. You don't have to, it doesn't matter.
Motion to approve the amended preliminary.
Discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Motion to approve,
Final.
final.
Second, discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Keep going, Amber.
Okay, next one is lot 1A, block 16 of Apple Springs subdivision. This is actually taking lots 1 and 2, combining them into 1A. So it's taking 2 lots and making it 1. Nope, there's no structures on it, so we didn't require a preliminary.
Okay. Discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Final plat for Kloss Development.
They're out in the hallway, I just put them,
Okay.
there they are.
Is that it? Are we good to go? Nobody else coming in?
Well, it's standing right there.
You guys want to come in so you can hear me. All right, so this is lots 1 through 9 and 31 through 42 of Dakota Highlands Estates, which is located outside of Whitewood there off of the Jackson areas, for most people know. Overall development, it has, in the process, they did their preliminary percolation test. The wells are getting ready to be drilled. When we talked to them after last meeting, I believe they were, I don't know if they're out there this week or they were getting close, to start the first process of the well drilling. And the original preliminary plat was approved in January of 2022. We just did an amended preliminary plat here, September of 2022, and that was changes being made to the configuration of the road. The as-built were received, I don't know, right, last couple of weeks we received them. I don't know exact dates on them, but they were received. We have not received any comment from Alan Bonema since the roads were finished and the as-built were done. So that's in there. I did take pictures for you guys because I didn't think everybody would have a chance to get out there. So this is the final road for this portion of the plat. They look pretty good. You've got your, so there's your roads. The road base is down. This would be what I would consider kind of the first phase of the overall development. So this portion of the road is complete with as-built.
Questions, concerns, or motions?
Is there still a concern with the, adjacent subdivision?
You guys approved the amended preliminary plat and the agreement has been filed.
Thank you. Second, discussion. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
To change the fuckle is in the garbage.
So you're a no? Okay, no. Motion passes. Final plat, Aberley Development, Sugarloaf.
This is just a final plat in the Sugarloaf Village, Sharon Crossing Village tract. we haven't had any changes out here. Roads are all in, everything's in place. Thanks guys. Everything's in place. He does a lot every once in a while out there, so matches everything.
Second, discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
The next one was sold.
Correct, and M is preliminary and final for Dale H. Hall.
All right, so this one is a preliminary and final plat. If anybody knows where the Hall, rock pit is, or gravel pit, that's kind of out in this vicinity, Brownsville Road. Property zone Park Forest, they're wanting to break the existing home on the north side of Brownsville Road onto its own 10-acre lot, and the remaining portion located on the south side of the road, 48 acres, would stay that way. The lot meets the density requirements in Park Forest. There's an existing septic and well located on tract 2, which is where the house is. Tract 1, which is on the south side of the road, does have some floodplain. There's existing gravel driveways already in place onto both sides of Brownsville Road. Our fire plan was done and has already received a completion letter. So that's it.
Address preliminary plat first. Thank you. Second, discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Final plat. Thank you.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Okay, it was approved. The hall plat's done then. And that one, I will say this was really nice. Everything came in at once and I didn't have to go back and find stuff. It's great.
All right, stars. Final plat for Phelan Partners.
That's what I should start having in my office. You get a star if you get everything in one setting. We're doing Maitland Partners, right? Okay.
Lots at 117.
Maitland Partners, lot 117. So you guys approved the final plat for, I don't know, I think it was like 102, 103, 107, 109, and 113 or something last month. They forgot 117. So here's 117 all by its lonesome. This one has bonds in place for the fire plan. This county commissioners approved that about, it was all last month too, I think. They approved the bonding for the fire plan portion of this. Roads are in and stuff out there. The second phase of this Paradise 4 is the portion that the commissioners are requiring the new water tank to go in. So they kind of got stopped on the second part of this, not the first part.
We're doing a road district too.
This is not included in the road as of right now. I hope so.
So, no fire plan done.
Fire plan is bonded for. They bonded for it.
Is their houses going up? So they bond for it, but does do any good even if somebody living in the house because they haven't done it. It helps the people. Final plat. Thank you.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Principal.
Aye.
Opposed, so you've got a 3-2, what? Who all, 3 or 4?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
5, 2.
3 against,
Oh, is there 3 against?
right? 1, 2, 3.
Okay. All right, 4-3. Preliminary final plat for David and Maxine Crone at Peaks Home.
All right, so this one is a lot line change. And it is easier if I show it to you. Let me change the plan. Let me change this
Oh,
one
you
too.
trashed it.
Can't
I
change
did
them.
it, and I had Jesse look at them, and they came up. So why are they not coming up for you?
No fighting now.
Okay, hold on. I do the staff report and then they mess with stuff
Yeah.
in the files.
At least
That
it
was
says
me.
it's in the garbage.
I offered to fix it, but it gets worse.
Here, we'll go this way. No, they just get in trouble for me.
Blame it on the new girl, she's not here.
Yeah.
Blame it on Jessie. No, she'll get mad. Actually, she won't get mad. She'll be sad. Okay, so what this is a lot line change. So you can see you have the Tronus tract here. You have the lot 9A. Yeah, lot 9A up here and 12A here. So what they're doing is this is a mineral survey load. It's the Ethel load, but there's roads that go through it. So what this little piece here is going to go to the center of basically their access to their house. And they're going to own this corner. So this corner is getting combined over here to lot 12A. There's already existing residence there. And then it comes up here. And then this is, you can see that when this house was built, here's the original lot line. May or may not be going through the structure a little bit. So what they're trying to do, just pull this back a little bit so it meets setbacks and stuff. So it's just a lot line change, but they had to do it out of the full mineral survey load to make it work. So it fixes issues that could be an issue later on.
That's way better than asking for variance.
Yes, it is.
Preliminary plat, please. Thank you.
Do we have to do exempt or anything?
No, it's a lot line revision.
Yeah, you don't.
But do we have to say that it's an exempt for that? We just do.
Yeah, you probably should.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that, but yeah, you probably should just do an exempt plat based on the fact that it's a lot line revision.
Address the exempt plat
Sorry.
first.
Move to make it exempt. Yep. Second.
Motion second, discussion, all in favor,
I think
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same preliminary plat. Second. Thank you. Discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, final plat.
Second.
Second, discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Next item is a discussion of Powderhouse Pass Community Improvement District. I'm not sure why we have that.
I suppose you can't really be a part of that discussion, can you?
I can't. That's right.
So you do have a conflict on this agenda. Just go back and add that, please. So this is just a real quick kind of summary. So normally, this board is not gonna see the CID annexations. Normally, they're just gonna go to county commission. But we wanted you to be aware of it, I guess, in case you get questions or, something from anybody, what's going on. But, Powderhouse Pass is going to be requesting to the county commissioners to do a CID annexation on some adjacent property that they bought from the Wilson family, I believe, is what this one is, right? Wilson family. And this is just a letter. This shows you the petition to annex the property. The petition has to follow all of the state law requirements. They'll have to put it in the paper and do the whole public notice thing and all of that stuff. It will be additional acreage to it, but overall, what we always have to keep in context is that the CID boundary, Community Improvement District boundary, has no bearing on zoning. It has no bearing on how they're going to develop it. That's just for their purposes of their jurisdictional area of what they can deal with: water, sewer, roads, that sort of thing. So I think the only thing with this one, because I've had some people ask me about it, well, can they just start building on it? They can't. That property was a standalone park forest zone piece of property. Doesn't have the same requirements as the rest of the planned unit development at this point. Now, can they try to do that? Yes, they can. But right now, it's just a normal, if they come in, they have exactly the building rights that are associated with the park forest zoning and the acreage. Does that make sense?
Yeah, same as a city annexing
Yep.
and ground the ag.
Yep, same thing. But this is just kind of a precursor, I guess, and then I don't know for sure when they're scheduled in front of county commission at this point. I don't.
They are.
So was this the ground that they were having troubles with a year or two
This
ago?
is one of them, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So they got
Yep.
it bought.
They got it purchased, yep.
Good.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's it. I don't know if, I think maybe there's somebody in the audience that wants to speak.
Ron Shively, 11329 Black Forest Road, one of the members of the Black Forest Road Association. I'd like to really understand what's been approved and what is the plan? What are they planning to do with it?
You can come in and talk to me. This has nothing to do with anything by you. This is totally on the other opposite side of you.
Black Forest Road is, we're talking about this parcel of land on this.
We're not. This particular thing has nothing to do with what you're talking about. It's not even on this agenda.
Not on this agenda. When might it be?
I don't know, because I haven't gotten anything submittal-wise. If you want to talk to me outside, you can make an appointment, and I can show you their whole plan, but I don't have anything currently. If the soonest would be November. If they submit anything, I don't know at this point. I don't have a submittal. The next planning deadline is October 15th, and whatever we get by 5 o'clock on the 15th would be on the November agenda. But I don't have anything for the Black Forest Ranchettes Road area. I know Auburn Acres is the next phase that they're working on, but I don't have it yet.
At this particular point, there's nothing been approved.
Well, Powder House Pass has been approved and it's all over.
But that's in a different location.
No, it's not. They own property all the way down Rochford Road.
Yeah. Some of that property down Rochford Road is unquestioned.
Okay, we can talk about, you can come into my office and I can go through the whole thing with you if you want to. That would be fine. Yep, that would be fine. We can do that anytime. I don't have anything on this.
There's been no zoning or anything like that approved for that parcel of property down Rochford Road.
Yes, there has been. It was all approved in 2020, 2005.
Make sure I was there. I didn't have to take any action.
Yep.
Okay, ready? Items from planning and zoning board members.
Nope, you skipped something. Ordinance revisions.
Oh, excuse me.
I know.
Take a quick break before we dive into that. Are we going then? You want, yes, let's take a break.
Okay.
How long is quick, Bob?
2 minutes.
How long is 3.2?
Depends on which item in his life you're talking about.
Do you have a day that works for you? Did you have a day that works for you to come in?
I can show you aisles.
Okay.
You bet.
You want to go?
You don't care, right?
That works better. That would be great. Let's get it. We're closed on Monday, so yeah, let's.
Sure. Amazing how much we pop in.
Tuesday,
What time do you want to come in? I'm here at 7. You want to go right at 8? Okay.
And we're just running clear out, you know.
What,
No, not
yeah.
3 or 4
What,
years.
what you need? SCHAIBLE.
Yeah, that helps us out too.
You do yoga?
I do.
You do? You bet. That helps.
We'll go right at 8.
You know,
'Cause there's a whole.
it depends. Sometimes it feels like it makes things worse, depending on what I do. So, probably because I don't do it consistently,
Yep.
but I do.
Yep, no problem. So I got you down, and so we'll say next Thursday at 8 a.m.
Supposed to make it better.
Yep, sounds good. All right.
And that
Thank you.
usually my neck and shoulder stuff helps. I found something online that works really well. But yeah, it still bothers. I've been going to the therapist.
Butyrate eccentrics.
Say again?
Butyrate eccentrics.
No.
Some moving yoga that basically gets all the fascia moving around. And
Yeah? What's it called?
ECCENTRICS. YouTube.
You do it?
Yeah.
Who knows?
It's just,
We're just getting to be buddies.
Just
getting along
keeps
so
you
well.
flexible or fixes
Oh,
beginners, and then
I think they were starting to worry about us.
beginner stuff.
Yeah.
There's an exercise class.
Should have started something real
It's
juicy
just
before.
full of emotion. And then the last thing you do is you sit and you flow and you go and pick up a feather off the ground,
Won't be voting
let it
a lot.
float, and you feel about half okay about the whole thing. But it,
So it's like Qigong, or, yeah.
Doesn't resemble
but
it
it
at all.
really, if you haven't done it for a while, you get it, you're really stiff when you're done. Moving things around.
Uh-huh.
No, I don't know.
All right, Amber, you
Matter
gonna
of fact,
wrap her up in about 10
I'm
minutes?
having trouble finding new sweatpants
Yeah,
that
Mike,
don't have skinny legs. Where do you find those without that
Yeah.
look? Anyway.
I can't find anything that fits.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't keep track of your days hair colors, Curly.
Curly, we can't keep track of you.
I've never found
It was
a
blonde in the afternoon, red in at night.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
It was Kathy. I don't remember what color her hair.
closest one I had to have, it was like a 54 athletic, and I still have that tailored, new stuff.
All right, we're all back. Let's get going again. Review of ordinance revisions, amend zoning changes.
All right, so here is the list. I had you guys look at it a couple weeks, well, I don't know, a couple months ago I started it, and yeah, it's just ongoing. But I guess really where we need to start is I need to know if this is really everything you want to tackle, or do you want to create parts of this, what you want to do. We haven't had to do a whole lot because we haven't had time to, but we're getting to the point that we have to do something because we have some areas that need to get fixed. So proposed work sessions would be as follows. I would like to look at November 3rd, which is our next planning and zoning meeting. We have been getting done, you know, fairly early, 2:30 to 3. I would like you guys to schedule at the end of this meeting a 2-hour work session since we're already here. Then we would have to find another date in November where we can have just a work session day. We've done that before where it's, you know, we've done 9 o'clock, we've done 10, it just kind of, we kind of look at your guys' schedules and try to find another day separately that we can meet. And then December 1st is a normal planning and zoning day. I would like to do 2 hours at the end of that meeting. And then another date in December. And then January 5th, the goal would be to possibly be able to have an informational meeting at the January 5th for whatever changes we get through. February 2nd would be planning and zoning public hearing on all of those changes. February and March, county commission public hearings on all of those changes. That would be in an ideal world. We usually try to do this so that the changes are in effect in April and May, which is the new building cycle for the following year. That's kind of how we've always tried to do that. I have the items in the list, so like 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are what I feel are like the most, like in the order of what we should accomplish, we'll say. One is the subdivision regulations. Janet is going to kind of spearhead this area because she's the one dealing with all the plats. What we would like to do here, and I've talked to Adam Thompson and to Mr. Dybert about this, and they are willing to help with this section. I would like to take a different approach here. In the time I've been in this office, I think I've redone this plat section about 4 times. And every single time, all I hear about is from the surveyors, what they don't like about it and how it doesn't work and this and that. So I would like to take the approach that, okay, then I want 2 surveyors that I deal with all the time. Usually the ones that are the most voicing their concerns about it. I would like them to look at our list and tell me what they don't like. What's wrong with it? Is there better wording? Is there a better way to do it? I don't know, whatever it is. I picked 2 very opposite ends. Randy knows I'm talking about this, so it's okay. But he has a very specific way that he'd like to see things on a plat. But Adam, by far, we'll give him the gold star in plats. Adam, by far, has the least amount of mistakes in a plat that we ever have to review. So that's the two that I feel if we can meet those requirements, that's the standard that I want all surveyors to be held to. Adam, like I said, very rarely, if Adam does a plat, we might have a little simple mistake. Very rarely does he have mistakes on his plat.
Can those two get together and have it ready by our first meeting?
I don't know, we're gonna try.
We can keep Randy off Facebook for a little bit.
I'm gonna try, so that's where I'd like to start, but I'd like to, instead of us spending the time going through that portion of the ordinance and trying to guess, you know, well, we think this would be better, or we think this would be better. It's not her and I that have the issue with the list, because we can make it work.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to kind of swing it around and say, okay, if there's problems, tell me what the problems are, and then we'll go from there.
And I think that's an excellent approach.
That's kind of what we're going to do with that first section. I know we'll probably talk to all of the surveyors a little bit, but that's kind of where I want to start, is have them come up with a list, and then we'll send it out. We've done that in the past, asking them to all look at it. So I had a note from previous road profiles and road building reviewed by the county highway department. Right now, page 24, item F says you will do that. One of two things needs to happen. Either one, it needs to be taken out of the ordinance so I can quit fighting with it, or two, I'm looking at you, Bob, the county commissioners have to enforce it, because I can't keep doing it. I know things are changing, you know, we'll have a new highway superintendent at some time, but it holds up my process waiting on another office. So in all honesty, I'd rather just take it out altogether, and then if the commissioners ask him to do it, then that's between you and him, not me.
Do we have any problem with Chuck?
They already provide as-built at the end. This is in the beginning.
Is that sufficient? I don't know if Chuck ever looked at any.
Chuck did. I never had a problem. Chuck him and I went and visited every single site. He reviewed all plans and always gave me a comment. And even Eric did too, or was it, no, yeah. Dick. When Dick worked was there, yes.
Yeah. Bruce, does that add any additional liability to the county if you don't have them? If you can sign off by the...
Well, we require as-built now.
So, yeah. No, I don't think so. I think if I understand your question, we're just trying to make sure that they're up to a standard. We're not trying to, like, say that they're the safest roads or the best roads, if that's what your point is, right?
Right.
Just trying to make sure that they meet a minimum set of standards. We're not endorsing or authorizing them.
So the issue that I have with it is, keep in mind, for one subdivision, I get road profiles, I get the plat, all of the extra stuff. I do not have the expertise, and I will tell you that, to read road profiles. So we've always had the highway superintendent do that part.
So it
Most
gives you
cities-
comfort then.
Well, because I can't tell you if that road profile meets the county ordinance.
But does it give you comfort if they sign off on it?
As an as-built.
No, not as, this is before as-built.
Gives her comfort that an expert looked at it and verified it's okay.
So basically what you're doing, and this is where I look at it, and Bob, you've been in those county commission meetings. When I'm asked, does this road, is there a grade issue? Is there a this? I'm not reviewing those plans for that purpose because our highway department is supposed to.
Yeah.
So it makes me look bad in a meeting when they say, well, this doesn't meet, a grade issue or whatever. We don't have anybody like a city does where they have a city engineer that's going to review those plans. We don't have that.
In the city, though, I think if I may, Mr. Chairman, the city's usually going to take the road on. Here, we're not intending to take any road on. And so it might be sufficient just to have the as-built, that's a requirement that we have, and be done, take that provision out. Their engineer is certifying that it meets that provision, and, that's it, right?
Is there any state regulations on roads or anything like that?
The county has the AASHTO standards, AASHTO standards, which is like is it a 66-foot right-of-way? And then in theory, I would disagree with not having that because we're saying the subdivision regulations have to be met. So who's checking to make sure that road meets all of our subdivision regulations?
An engineer signing off with their credentials.
I've seen some pretty questionable engineers.
Well, and so it gets to the point too, with Alan going out there, Alan is not an engineer, or whoever would be Alan.
Right.
He's just looking at it like, you know, he knows more than me, but yeah, there it is, right? He's not measuring it or doing any of that.
So one of the thought processes were, you know, I have a professional services budget, and this will come up more so as part of budget standpoint, but, you know, we have money in the budget. If there's a big subdivision, we'll say, coming in that we need, would it behoove the county to have an outside engineer look at just that set of plans? Say it meets all the standards, instead of having, if the highway department's not gonna do it, that's fine. I don't care if it's him or not, but can I just have, I think, like, he has a person like interstate engineering or whatever.
And I think Commissioner Dybert, for example, is
Yeah.
one of those that would advocate for that. And, so to the extent that you needed to use that service, if there's money there, that might be a way to handle it, if there's a question.
It's an option, I don't know, and some of you don't need it, but I think we're seeing, a perfect example is the Dakota Highlands. You know, we've had some issues with those road things. There's the one that we just looked at today, they're asking for a variance on it. Who's reviewing that to determine, do they need a variance?
Bruce, do you wanna allow us some time next meeting to have a quick discussion on this?
Well, if you could bring it up during items from the commissioners.
Sure.
Because I just don't know, I know we need to fix the ordinance, but I don't really know which route
Sure.
to fix it with, because I don't know what you guys.
Am I getting this right? We've got ordinances that require a certain level engineered firm, that we've had 2 unskilled people, or if you include us, a whole bunch of unskilled people questioning an engineer.
Because our
Pretty
ordinance
much.
says, yeah.
'Cause, yeah, I assume their highway superintendent was an engineer, but obviously I was wrong.
And maybe there's a fair distinction too with the one today with the long cul-de-sac. I don't know, there are some engineering questions there, but we're not evaluating the engineering. They're saying that the cul-de-sac has to be, or they want it to be that long. There's a difference in my mind between that and actually, if you approve it, how was the road put in there? You know, how is the drainage? Where are the culverts at?
That's not what I'm talking about.
But I'm trying to make that distinction.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be very careful with that. And so, again, are we making it too complicated by having Alan go out there, essentially a layperson? I mean, again, knows more than me.
Yeah.
What are we really accomplishing?
But you and I are talking about different things. So in our ordinance, it states that he will review the plans. I'm not talking about going out after.
But I know that. So he doesn't know. I don't know that he knows. He doesn't have the expertise. He's not shooting grades out there. He's not familiar with what was required for ditches and culverts and that. I mean, again, he has more than me.
Should we? If it says it's to be built to county specs, doesn't he know what those are? I mean.
He knows, but he's not. Again, he's not an
How does
engineer.
he check if he isn't skilled to do that?
Yeah.
We're hiring the wrong person.
But we have culverts in our roads, and he's putting culverts in and taking them out.
I know, but as bad as I've hit on him, knowing this, we've been unfair to him because he isn't skilled enough to do the job.
I think.
The way ordinance is
And I
written.
think it was different because Chuck used to, and I think Chuck had a different background. In some sense, he would look at our subdivision ordinance and he would say, okay, it needs to be a 3-to-2 this, it needs to be a 66-foot wide public way. That's what he would look at. He would look at the grade. He wouldn't say it's right or it's wrong. He would say this, he'd circle it. This portion of the grade says it's 14%, not 12%. Well, we don't have that anymore.
I think maybe Chuck was more willing to go out and indulge this and give his input to the extent that it was. We may have, thought he was giving more of an expertise sort of review than what we're actually getting, if that's fair, right? And I think Alan's basically saying, I don't have any of that. Maybe. I don't want to speak for him.
So we have a highway superintendent that doesn't know how the roads are supposed to be.
How what?
Well, he does, it's just he probably not as technical as what
So
you're
that,
looking at.
I guess that's where it's coming back to, is I just want to make sure that what we're requiring, one, I know it's not happening, so that's a problem, and two, do we need to look at doing it a different way? Does it need to be that I need to have money in my budget if there's an issue that we could hire somebody to say, hey, I don't think this is right, we need an out, because you don't want to go back to that engineer and say, well, I don't agree with you.
Mr. Chairman, maybe the idea is to have Alan come in at the appropriate time and explain it in his own words. I mean, again, I don't really wanna speak for him or diminish his capacity or anything like that at all.
I don't know that I need to hear from Alan because he, in all fairness to him, he's not an engineer, and we got him doing engineer work.
Well,
And
when we do a bridge or a road in the county,
He hires Interstate or
engineers
somebody
do
to
it.
do it.
I understand that, okay, but he's inspecting an engineer's work on a design for roads, and he's not an engineer.
Correct.
And so
And
we're
neither
holding
am I.
him above the engineer, the skilled engineer, trained engineer.
You shouldn't have to be an engineer though, if you know what the specs are. Any one of us in this room can look at the specs on what our ordinance says it has to be, look at the engineer's report, and if they don't meet them, they don't meet them.
Okay.
And that's where I was going, TJ, is I think in the past, you have two parts. You have the very beginning of the subdivision, which is, here's Mr. Engineer, they hand you a set of plans that says this meets all the county specs. What I've been telling them is, as an engineer, you need to write me a report that says, I have all 66-foot public right-of-ways. I meet there is nothing in your ordinance that I don't meet. If they don't meet it, they have to list that separately as an exception to say, I don't meet it because it's a 14% grade for less than 200 feet. Well, that's allowable in our ordinance. But like this scenario that you saw today with Schreier, we made him go for a variance because it was a 3,000 foot variance, basically. There's a difference. The problem is, if I need to do that, because we know that we don't know what's gonna happen because he won't be here anymore. If I need to take that on, we've gotta do something else in the office, because that's hours of looking through something when you don't have the experience.
I can go out, we go out and measure the road surface and say it's 24 feet or whatever, I can do that. But, anything else beyond that,
So that's why we do require as-built now, which we didn't in the past. That's only been in the last few years that we make at the end, before we're gonna release those final plats, they have to show us as-built to say, that's where the engineer is stamping it, saying it meets all standards.
I think maybe, Mr. Chairman, where the highway comes in is if there's an intersection with a county road, again, to allow the highway superintendent's input there, and how that's all gonna happen in terms of culverts and water, and what site distances, that kind of thing. But otherwise, I think a lot of this probably is more of an engineering issue.
And that's it specifies road profiles and the building of the road. And that's the part that bothers me is, who are we to say we're okay to go out and say that road's built correctly?
Compacted, base course.
So could we have change some of those subdivision codes to where the subdivision owner or whoever submits this to a independent surveyor and they pay for that fee?
They do now, well, not an independent, they do, right now, they're required to hire an engineer to do the plan. They're already doing that.
Right, and then
It's just a review of it. So I'd like to almost possibly have not a requirement, but an on an as needed basis. If I look at those and go, something isn't right here, this is totally not okay, then we could say we are gonna hire an independent person, but you're gonna pay the fee.
So, yeah, I
That's
think
the
my
right way to
point
put it?
is
Yeah.
just saying, so the county would budget for it, either to pay it up front or to be reimbursed by the developer. I think that's your concern, right?
Yeah.
Is it just a service that we're going to provide? Are we gonna charge an additional fee? Are we gonna require reimbursement? How are we gonna do that? We'd have to work that out.
Yeah, I think it would be a supplemental requirement that if there's a concern, we can hire an outside source and charge them back for it.
Can we put it in there that if there's a concern, we just tell them you hire an outside source, you pay for it, you handle it, you do it,
They're already doing that.
bring us
But they're already
kinda
doing
like an
that.
as-built though, isn't it?
They're already doing that.
They're already doing it.
But it would only be if you have a concern about that their engineer is correct. I won't say honorable, I'll say is correct in what they're doing, right?
So then it goes back to my original problem. Who's going to be making sure that if that's my job to do, to make sure it meets the requirement, because I will tell you, the majority of the road plans that we see, they are not meeting our ordinance exactly. You guys give an exception almost every single time.
And that's where the engineer can be doing everything completely right. He can say, well, we got a 20% grade here, and we got a 24% grade over here, and we got a 22-foot wide road here, and an 84-foot wide road here, and put it all on the plat the way that it actually, that he designs it. What we need is somebody to go in and say, no, you can't have that design even. Like, the engineer didn't do anything wrong, he just
He
didn't follow
designed
the
it
ordinance.
how his client wanted him
Right.
to design it.
And then we need to
Now-
go in and say, no, you can only have a 14% grade for 200 feet, all that stuff. That's
And it's just like anything, some engineers are better than others. Some engineers will come right to me and say, I can't get this grade to work, I'm gonna ask for an exception.
In what you're asking, I think it needs to be back on the highway department.
I think so too.
Their
That's
job, not your job to do the highway department's job. They need to sign off on it.
I just don't know where to go with it, cause
Rather
it's,
than you take it on.
yeah.
We need to just have our ordinance clear as what the requirements are, and
Yeah.
then the highway department needs to take it from there, I would say. So on the one today with that 3,300 and some mile long cul-de-sac, did they come to you and say, we wanna do this, and you said no, and they said we want a variance, or how did that actually all
They
transpire?
came to me, I said, this doesn't meet the ordinance, cause that was a
Yeah,
pretty,
it's
I mean,
obvious. Yeah.
clear. It's more than 800 feet, I
Right.
can look at a plan and
Yep.
determine that.
Okay.
And they opted to go to the county commissioners, even though I told them, well, you guys told them no, I told them no, you told them no, they went to the county commissioners said, well, I guess you have to, there's a process, the process is if you want to ask for something other than what the ordinance states, you can ask, you can appeal, you can ask for a variance, that's what they're doing.
That's their option, right?
That's their option to do it. So in that scenario, I mean, I could look
So
at
you
those
did-
plans and be like, that's 3,000 feet and 800 feet is, I mean, that's a pretty simple one. I think the bigger ones are usually your curves, your grades,
Yep.
maybe the ditch, you know, it's not a 3-2. I can't really tell by looking at that usually.
Matson comes to mind on as-built.
Yeah.
Used to be
Now, the as-bills
quite
are
pretty
only something we've done in the last 5 years. You know, it's been fairly new. We used to not even require as-bills.
You know, I think it's probably a really good idea to have the ability to have a third party look at it, because you put the engineer in the position between the county and his client, and, you know, that might be a predicament for some people, right? They might give the client the benefit of the doubt in some cases where they wouldn't. And so it seems to me that you know, we wouldn't always blindly believe what they say, but they're signing off on it with their engineering credential, their license on the line too, right? But at the same time, you know, everybody probably should expect some review as well.
Yeah. So we just need to figure out, and I wanted it to come up a little bit because you guys are going into the new highway department. Like, we need to figure this out because we can't keep doing what we've been doing. So it's a good time to have the discussion. Yeah.
I'm not as worried, I guess, as an engineer saying that it's a 10% grade when it's actually 14, as I am just having them not read that part of the ordinance and
Correct.
design it in at 14.
And a lot of times when I do catch stuff, they're like, well, I didn't even look at the ordinance, and I'm going, seriously, like, that's your job. You
Well,
were hired
obviously,
by your client to make this meet the process.
When you draw in a 3,300 foot cul-de-sac, yeah,
That's
it's
part of
pretty
the
good.
ordinance.
Well, I think they did, and so you and I wouldn't do it. It's like kind of a crazy decision, but, you know, like, they paid the price of admission to go forward,
I
right?
guess, yeah.
I guess that was worth it.
Some direction, we'll
Yep.
give you
So the
something.
zoning ordinance obviously is number 2. We need to deal with campgrounds, do something. I'm not really sure what yet, but we need to do something. So this is a definition. Bruce and I looked at it a while ago and I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget it. I believe this is the one we found in the state law. It doesn't really help me, but it could over time. But we need to have the discussion on what is a campground and when can they apply for it. Do we need to have different districts that it's actually allowed in? Because right now they're everywhere. Guest houses and ADUs. We have our guest house ordinance. A lot of places are going to an ADU basis. That's an accessory dwelling unit. Similar, but not.
Accessory dwelling.
Yeah, we're having issues with campers showing up and becoming a dwelling unit. So is it a campground or is it a dwelling unit? Is it a trailer? In that sense, it is. So there's just some things going on there that we're seeing more and more of that. To me, if you have 5 campers on your property, that's no different than having 5 guest houses, because it's what are they being used for? They're being rented every week. How is that any different than a guest house? So that's a definitional / issue.
So far, the current status is we're kind of not in that, right? And so I think, and then so if you get into that genre, be careful what they know what you're doing, because you might be getting calls, a lot of calls. A lot of subdivisions have covenants probably that prohibit that kind of thing, or regulate it, you know, allow it or whatever. But there are areas, older subdivisions that don't. And so, you know, this could be an issue of neighbors not getting along, and it could be a cottage industry of complaining.
Guest house and ADUs are different than vacation home rentals. So that's a whole nother thing. But the guest house, we have a guest house ordinance. We are issuing a lot of guest houses. A lot. And that's fine. I don't have a problem with it, but it's going to come back sooner or later. The part that we're going to start dealing with soon is the enforcement of that guest house. It says they're not supposed to rent it out. So the guest house is one thing.
We just created more jobs than Biden has here.
Yep. Chapter 6, district regulations. Reviewing all the districts, we usually try to do that where we go through the zoning districts. Is there anything that needs to be changed or not? The multifamily thing has come up a lot.
Yes.
Currently, we don't have a zoning district that allows an apartment building, but there's some places right outside of Spearfish that it probably makes sense. But I can't even permit them at this point. So I think we need to look at that. I don't quite know whether it's creating a new zoning district, which is like if you look at Spearfish, they have like what, R1, R2, R3. We don't have that in between. So that might be an option that you specify it around. Usually it's around your city limits. You don't have it like, you know, way out a ways, but I think we're at a point that we really need to look at that. The PUD language, we need to clean that up, and it's a language thing because I found some areas in the ordinance that it still refers to our old way of planned unit development. Perfect example is the one that I read earlier where it says under the suburban residential zoning district, when you and I were talking about it earlier, Bob, where it says according to a planned unit development. Well, we don't do it that way anymore because the PUD is now a zoning district. So there's just some weird places that I found some old language.
Another one we're forgetting, that variance issue where it says you can do a variance, but it doesn't direct us to a procedure, so we adopted the other procedure for it.
Yeah. Yep. So then the PUD zoning district, I think, needs to be reviewed. This came up as an idea, and I kind of like it, that general commercial. So we have some general commercial areas, but we don't really have a general commercial area. If you look at the general commercial zoning district, it said it's supposed to be a town center. So we have it in Nemo. We have it in St. Ange. That's the only general commercial zoning. We used to have it out at Iron Creek. They were a general commercial, but we switched that to recreation commercial. So most of these existing general commercial zoning districts, I've never done a change of zoning to general commercial in 20 years, just about. And it's because we don't have town centers. Like we don't have that outside city limits. So that might be an area that we could do some administrative change of zoning or something and use our highway, because most of those are really highway service commercial or recreation commercial, maybe some industrial areas. So that's just a thought. Additions to conditional use permits, allowed uses in the different districts. These are lists of things that I've made over the last year. Breweries and distilleries, that's something that we currently still don't have in our list, but it probably should be because we are going to continue to see those types of things. The UTV, ATV, rental, / whatever you want to call it, it would make my job a lot easier if we just had it listed. So we could say it's going to be allowed in this district and it's not going to be allowed in this district. Instead of right now where we have 25 CUPs and they're all doing something different. Vacation home rentals, I leave it on there every year, and Bruce doesn't want me to go there, I know, but it needs to be discussed. I don't know if there's anything we can do. Well, I know there's stuff you can do, but it's a matter of if anybody wants to go there. But I will always leave it on the list so we can have the discussion.
Is Pennington County regulating vacation homes?
They are. They have been for about 5 years.
How many people do they have doing that?
The only thing that they regulate is the septic usage.
they have them like register or
They had to
something?
register, they had a certain date to register by. I think it was like 90 days from the time the ordinance took effect or something, so they have to register and pay a fee. So it's almost like a license, kind of. They come in and they buy a license to operate a vacation home rental every year. And then they have to look at their health code, like, you know, does the structure, they went through all of them at the beginning. Is there any issues with the windows? You know, do they have enough life safety codes? There's life safety codes. And then they look at the septic. Is the septic business big enough for the number of bedrooms that they're renting it for? Most of ours are probably not, I would say.
I think there's a lot of use,
Yeah. So.
My only comment would be, I think the county is missing out on a great deal of revenue with all the RVOs and things.
And if they have to get
I
a
know it's kind
permit,
of a can of worms, but it's only gonna get bigger.
if they have to get a permit, at least we know where they're at.
Yeah, they just, and they didn't even.
If they had to get a permit every year, at least we would know where they're at.
Yes.
Yep,
Not-
they
not
did like
immediately, but-
it's like a registration process. They had 90 days to register, and then I think it's a license. I think it's like they did a kind of a business license, sort of just saying, we know you're operating, you meet all the life safety codes, you have to register, and it's a really good way. They did it mainly because the Department of Revenue, they weren't getting their sales tax license. Half of them didn't have them. So there was a real quick turnaround to how many of them had to register with the state, so they were actually getting sales tax off of it. So anyways, that's on there. Wedding venues, that's been kind of a new one. We're seeing it. I think I've had 2 conversations recently on people wanting to do wedding venues on their property. We need to have the discussion on regarding the medical marijuana dispensary, growing facilities, and manufacturing again. Currently, I believe we still haven't done a dispensary, right? Our license is still available. And we never did talk about, well, we talked about it. We opted not to have a growing facility or a manufacturing facility in the county. Don't know if we need one yet or not, but
Butte County's got that taken care of.
Yep.
Very well.
But it's one of those things that I was asked to, you know, leave, so we don't forget about it, to just keep talking about it, so it's on the list. Campgrounds, we talked about multifamily housing, ADUs, guest houses, they all kind of go together. This has been a new one, mobile home park requirements. I think we are getting to that point because we don't have a lot of housing for people that can't afford a single family residential house. Our mobile home parks that we do have are old, you know, there is a need for it. I have had a couple people request how would they go about starting a new one right outside of Spearfish, right outside of town. Can't annex, tried that route. City has no desire to annex more property right now. There is a need for it, but currently we don't have, it used to be allowed under a planned unit development, but that's that old language. I don't know if we'd wanted, because the PUD, they don't have 25 acres, and that's what a PUD needs. So it might be something that we need to have some requirements specifically, like if you're like let's say you can hook into city services, but the city isn't wanting to annex some area, because we have some areas like that I think the city would be okay with them hooking in. So it's just something that I think we're at a point that we probably need to look at. Floodplain, these are my notes for me. I don't think we're there yet, but Tanya didn't want this to get left. If you remember, we were working on that lower valley, upper valley floodplain redo of the map. And that's been 5 years that we've been working on this. She was very concerned that it'll get forgotten about because she's no longer there. Mathis is helping with it, Kyle is. But I would say here in the next 3 to 4 months, we'll be in our 90-day review period to get those new maps done. She went to bat for the county so that we didn't have as many houses go in to the floodplain along that area, so that's good. So we don't want to lose that, because if FEMA ever decided to come in, we would have the majority of Lower and Upper Valley would be in the floodplain. So we put some controls in place to help kind of alleviate some of that. I have all the maps upstairs. She made sure I had them before, and Kyle is working with FEMA, but because Spearfish started the process, they have to be the ones to finish it. But we'll be in our 90-day review, and I can't remember the last time you guys, I don't know, Rick, you were probably involved the last time we redid maps, weren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Where we had the public meetings and Spearfish, and I stood there for 3 hours and answered questions. We'll have to do that same process again. So.
Amber, Mr. Chairman, if I may, something that may come up at the commission level. So in the context of, the city has by statute the right to have up to 3 miles of plating jurisdiction. And then we have an agreement, a separate agreement with the city, where we share building permits and inspections, right? There may be a push, so this may be premature from the commissioner, some of them, to reduce that area. And so that the county then would take on that building permits, that building inspection, and so forth. So maybe you want to wait and see what the commission says. But one thing in terms of floodplain is I know that there's some folks that think that the county's floodplain requirements are much less than the city's. And it's not clear to me that that's the case. And but that could be an issue that comes up as well, that you may require your input at some point. Is that fair, Bob?
They're both regulated by FEMA.
Well, so there's a perception, and
Spearfish
again,
has another layer.
I'm not an expert. That
But it's
side
not
by
a bad
side,
thing.
that
It's
side by
just-
side, that if you're in the city, you have to do your packet's this big. If you're in the county next door, your packet's this big, and it's inequitable between landowners, and so you probably will hear some of that.
Your annexation issue is the Highway Corridor 85. And they're jacking those people around.
So it's just something to keep in mind with that. This discussion on the floodplain maps needs to occur no matter what happens with who does jurisdiction. It doesn't matter, because whether it's me or it's somebody in Spearfish, we still need to deal with the problem and not. We want to do whatever we can to make it where a lot of houses don't end up going into the floodplain. So, I mean, we got to work with them on that. I'm sorry, what'd you say, Bob?
Regulations need to.
They can't be the
line
same
up.
because Spearfish has a different layer. They have a certified floodplain manager and we don't.
They used to, but they probably still do with Kyle.
Yeah,
That's an engineer.
Kyle still is. And the difference is they have a higher level of standards because they fall within a higher level of FEMA
They get some benefits,
than what
right?
I do. They get benefits for their insurance carriers that the county chooses not to opt out, not to be a part of. So there is a reason for those changes. But I would disagree with that person that thinks that, because I've looked at many of the projects that were in question and I would have required the exact same thing. So that's a whole different thing. Site plan requirements, I just want them to be the same. Whether we're talking about a building permit, a development plan, or an application, the site plan requirements need to be the same across the board, and right now they're not. So that's just an editing, making sure that they're matching up. Administrative change of zoning, so this goes back to your conversation a little bit ago when you asked me about, is there some areas to do some administrative change of zoning on? And adopting a new zoning map. The last zoning map was adopted in 2018. They usually try to readopt those every 5 years, give or take, so we're there. I've started making some lists of some parcel and some areas that I want to look at. And what that entails is if we choose to go down that administrative change of zoning route, we would have a map, print one like this. Literally, I'm going to take a marker and I'm going to highlight the areas that I think we need to look at doing an administrative change of zoning on. If we do that, there's a very specific process, and once we start that process, I can't have a commissioner or somebody saying, no, I don't want that one to be involved in there. You have to make that decision before I go that route, because as soon as you take one out or change it or move it, you have to start all over again. So we need to have those discussions right from the beginning. And then what I normally would do is we would go through the area, look at all of it, highlight the areas, get a hold of the landowner, and ask the landowner, are you okay with us doing an administrative change of zoning on this property? how we did it last time, so it was 2005, the last time we went through this route. If the landowner said, nope, leave my property alone, I don't want anything to do with it. The commission kind of just said, we're just gonna leave it alone. We're not gonna mess with it. And that's fine, if that's what we choose to do. So then we have to do that, and then we have to do a mailing. It's a mass mailing to anybody within 500 feet. So just like, you know, the normal person going through the process, we have to do the same thing. So it's thousands of mailings going out. So we want to make sure it's done, you know, very methodically. We have to go through the process and whatever. It's a big undertaking, but I think there's a number of areas that really could benefit from it.
Seems like the biggest confusion last time was taxes.
It was.
They thought if there was a change in their zoning, it would change
Their taxes would change. Yep.
Did you want Jeff? He's here.
I don't think so.
He just lurking in the shadows.
He probably wants to ask me something.
Cause his name.
Oh, he might be coming to, yeah, I don't know. So that's just kind of where that is. It's a big undertaking. We probably won't get it done in this timeline that I had up above, because that's going to be, that's not a subdivision zoning ordinance change. That's a separate thing. But if we're going to do that, I'd like to set up a meeting with like a couple of you guys that want to do just that. I don't think we need to do it in a whole board meeting, but just go through some areas. I was hoping Rick would maybe help me with it because he knows the spearfish area fairly well. You know, you would be good too. I mean, all of you guys would be good, but there's certain areas that I think we know where we need to make changes and where we don't. Building permits, Jeff is going to be kind of dealing with this part. The 911 address, I don't know, I had it as a note, but I don't think it's really gone anywhere. Do you have any updates on that, Bob?
No, we don't.
There's a gentleman
Okay.
coming into the commission meeting next week
Right.
to talk about it, but no money was budgeted for 2023.
So what Jeff's been doing to date is we did add some wording, I think, in the building permit application or something. So he has not issued an occupancy permit on any new structure without a 911 address. Now, there may not be, it might not be a green sign or, you know what I mean, but there's
Right.
something up. That's,
Sled hanging in a tree with a magic marker.
so he has been kind of watching that on any new construction. Old ones are always the problem. You know, how do you go back and enforce it? So that is something he's doing. We will have a new fee schedule for 2023 for building permits. We have not increased our building permit fees for about 6 years, I'm guessing.
January, right?
Yeah, so in January, we'll have a new fee proposal, like everything. It costs more to administer everything too, so we'll look at that fee proposal. Commercial reviews, I want to bring this up now. We are going to be adding a fee to our fee schedule. So currently, we have been lucky enough that Tom Paisley has been doing it for free as part of just us having a working relationship with him. So anytime we've had a full commercial building outside city limits, he has reviewed it because it's a totally different, it's not a normal building permit like what Jeff is trained in. It's a different thing. So he'll look at it, he'll do a red line for us that says they need this, this, and this, and then we can go from there. He's helped us with any of those buildings and has never charged us for it.
He's retiring.
He is retiring, I believe, December, right? December something, soon.
December 2nd.
And so I think it is something that we need to be mindful of, that we may have to start hiring a code review on those commercial ones separately. We just don't do enough of them to be well versed on them.
Sprinkler systems and things like that.
Yeah, just some of those, and some of them aren't that bad, but it's just enough different that we don't do a lot of commercial reviews. So we'll probably have a commercial review fee or something. So if someone comes in and wants a commercial building, we are going to charge them back to do this review. And whether we have a contract with somebody or we just, I mean, it's maybe like 2 or 3 a year. Maybe we just don't see that many of them. So I'm thinking the easiest would be just to give me permission to charge back whatever that fee is to a person, have a contract with them. Don't you think that would be fair? We're gonna try to do some size restriction changes, cause there's discrepancy between our building permit requirements and the IBC requirements. Ours say 144 square feet, but the IBC code says 200 square feet. So it's confusing, which one am I supposed to enforce? I think we need to be consistent with the IBC codes, because that's what we're using as our code requirements. So we just need to update those areas. Water and wastewater systems, this has been brought up a couple times. Jeff's gonna start working on it. That whole section is probably a little outdated. I'm gonna say it's probably from the 80s. Some of the state laws have changed a little bit. And also, again, there might be some areas that we need to look at for septic systems. We only have one area listed in there that we don't allow septic systems. I think that's gonna continue to be a bigger and bigger problem with as many septic systems as we have.
That's the Belfouche infiltration gallery.
Yeah, the Belfouche infiltration area does not allow any septic systems. And that's mapped. We have it mapped. And so if a building permit comes up in that area, we just tell them, you either hook into the Spearfish Sanitary or you don't get a building permit. It's just the way it is. Variances. So this is where Bruce and I were talking about a little bit. Two things. One is the requirement for a survey as part of a variance application to show actual location of existing and new structures. I am going to propose this gets put in there because I'm sick and tired of fighting with people and sitting in a board meeting and everybody having a different thing. So at least for variances, I have to show a survey that shows all existing structures and or if the structure isn't built yet, where they're going to put it and what the actual site distances are.
No hand drawings.
No hand drawings.
No more stick people.
If we're going to do that, though, my question is, building permits, CUPs, change of zonings, we want to be consistent. So I guess we just need to know where we're going to go with there. Now, the harder part that I struggle with, building permits, if you guys want to start requiring that, I've asked for it, and people have said, no, it costs too much money. It's going to put me too far behind. I don't care, because it is a pain in the butt to deal with people and building permits. But that means everything. That means I don't care if you're zoned ag. I'm going to pick on the 3 ag people. If you want to put a whole building up on 50 acres, you're going to have to do a site plan survey. Because you can't pick and choose, or if you do, it needs to be specific. If you are more than 50 feet away from a property line, you don't have to. If you're less than 50, we need to spell it out. When it's going to be required. Because if it's required, it's either the same for all. I don't want to be the one saying, well, I guess you don't have to because you're 150 feet away or something. So we can write that out, however it's going to be. All structures need a building permit. That's been a big issue lately. So if you're talking to people and they say, well, I don't think you need a building permit, tell them to call me. Because most of the ones we're catching is, well, I got a building permit for my house, but I didn't think I needed one for my garage. Or I didn't think I needed one for my shed. Gotta have one.
And nobody's that naive, they're just.
I know. You don't know how often I hear, well,
I
I
just didn't want to get one.
Yeah.
And he got caught and got in trouble, too.
I didn't want an inspection either.
Yep. Well, a lot of it is people don't want it because it's going to show up on the tax rolls a lot quicker than it does if they build it without getting caught.
That used to be Penny's comment.
Yeah.
Let me know when the building's done so we can put it on the tax rolls. We don't.
The last is sign regulations. I keep pushing it off, but we haven't gotten sued yet, so that's good. But it will happen sooner or later.
Also, roads, in the sense that, like, Troxel Lane there, Nemo, it's a public access to private property. The county says, they don't have jurisdiction of it because they don't maintain it. So you have neighbors putting up signs, speed limit signs, private property, you're trespassing. It's very confusing to people when it's public access. And then they put speed bumps, large speed bumps, so when you drive over, your car bottoms out. And of course, then you have people that take the speed bumps out. If one can put it in, the other should be able to take it out and take down the signs. So I think there's a real problem there, not only on Croxville Lane, but throughout the county. And I'd certainly entertain a sign ordinance regulating signage and
You
speed
can't,
bumps.
cause it won't ever,
Like, I think
Not
that's,
in that-
I think that's
yeah.
a state law issue.
it
And
is.
I know exactly what you're talking about, obviously, and those are all valid points. I think the issue is that, so publicly dedicated road, not on any county system, township system, street system, publicly dedicated, everybody gets to use it. There's a question of who gets to regulate that. The concern from the county is to the extent if it's not on the county system, that we start going in and saying, hey, take these signs down, do this or do that, that it's gonna be imputed that we've added it to our system. So there's no state law that says that the county can do something short of some kind of regulation or superintending administration of something less than adding it to its system, right? And then so, and that's assuming the county would want a statute like that, because there's lots of roads like that aren't in road districts, or, and so all of a sudden the county then has the ability, and folks are gonna come in and say, we want you to come in and superintend this. And that's up to the county commissioners to judge that, but that's where that could go.
Yeah,
But
there's probably thousands of miles of that.
Well, Mountain Plains too, 130 some houses. It's a publicly dedicated right of way, but it's not regulated by the county. We had an accident with deaths and had to do a lot of talking, and the sheriff come and help with, the orchestration of that, cause it's not in their jurisdiction. It is and it isn't. Yeah, it's confusing.
State law, I think, has not kept up with developing areas like this, right? And we, I think, are pretty unique too. I think in terms of South Dakota, about having so many publicly dedicated roads that aren't in it, because we only have the one township. Most places East River, I think, have the townships that would pick a lot of that up. So we have road districts that kind of fill in that gap. You can't make people have a road district. And so you have these publicly dedicated roads that won't fall under any sort of governmental auspices.
So I realize that our sheriff isn't here, but if I do 50 miles an hour down that road,
Yep.
the sheriff cannot give me a ticket.
We struggle with that, and so I think, so the question is so what is the speed limit on a publicly dedicated road? And so I think it's the default speed limit, which is like 45 or 50 miles an hour on a rural county road. If you have a road district can put in place, and then the sheriff's office, for example, can enforce speed limits and those kinds of things. But there's no statute that I know of that allows anybody to do it in that area. And again, that's a gray area. So if the county puts up speed limits on that road, have you then exercised enough jurisdiction, or are you going towards, well, then they're going to come in and say, well, you've done that. We now want you to maintain the road. Congratulations. You've just won road maintenance too, because you put speed limit signs in, or because you've done this or done that. Again, statute doesn't give us a lot of guidance, and there's no case law either that way.
Yeah, I'm just preparing you for more of this, because as we have people move in from other parts of the United States, they have different ideas and thoughts.
I get calls regularly.
It's every day.
Yeah.
It's already
regularly.
happening. When it comes down to it, I'm not gonna get involved in
It's
them
a state
moving into a
regulation.
neighborhood that they didn't know what they were getting into.
Sheriff's
Really what
office,
it comes down to.
I think fair enough, struggles with that. We go through it all the time, and people don't understand. They're coming from a place where there's not a road that's probably not, a public road that's not under a government's jurisdiction, right? And that is a very hard concept, even for people out here to accept. I had to go through that for a couple of years, I think, with the sheriff's office. They were looking at me like, what are you talking about? Publicly dedicated road that goes across private property. How can that be? Those people have to have the right to close the road down. Well, no, they don't. Yeah, they can go through the process and vacate the road. That's probably their alternative.
I think it's why you're seeing anymore, when a new development comes in, if you look at the road, it is no longer dedicated as a public right of way. Taxpayers are paying. The middle of the lot line goes to the middle of the road. So they still own the land, they just have an easement or a right of way running through it. But the land ownership is still there, it's public, so that's why you're seeing that a lot more than when I first started working for the county. There was a push of, we'll take it off the tax rolls, take it off the tax rolls. well, we don't wanna see that as much any bit more for that public right of way.
And I think the idea too was to create connectivity, public dedication and all that, but, so the paradigm has shifted now where, well, if it's publicly dedicated, it makes the argument that much better that the county should be maintaining it. Because there's still a question about, definitionally about what county secondary roads are. There's a recent opinion out that kind of suggests that you can in fact have a publicly dedicated road that does not fall within any government's jurisdiction. So that kind of cleared that up. But the idea is if they're all just private dedicated, we're that much further away from that argument, if that makes sense.
Right. So I'm just curious, in his case, where does accident investigation fall in? On what jurisdiction?
I don't get involved. I don't know. A lot of times the highway patrol will come out and do accident investigation.
The ones that I did back in the day in Mountain Plains, I remember having to go down and get the trooper because he couldn't get up there, but they came up and done the investigation.
Homeowners
Typically.
Association has to have their own law enforcement.
That's kind of the way it was presented, that we had a death in the thing, so.
I think the highway patrol has some type of blanket jurisdiction on vehicle accidents.
I think that's kind of their bailiwick, right?
Yeah.
They do that. I don't think anybody else wants to write accidents.
Right.
They do that. They've
Sure.
got the experts and things.
This all stimulates from Amber keeping notes throughout the problems we have, and then we try to clean it up. Hopefully everybody can agree to this schedule. I mean, it's an extra couple hours, but we have been getting over early. And
Back in my drawer over there, please. Thank you.
So I guess,
it needs to be done.
no, I try to do it once a year in the winter time because everybody seems to be a little less busy. So far, our office is not, usually we're way slower where we have like 1 or 2 items on the agenda, but that's not how it's working so far. So I guess this is the proposed work session. It is much easier to have every board member present for these than it is for me to go back and spend a half an hour getting you caught up from the next meeting. So at the November 3rd meeting, we'll say, I just said 2 hours at the end, because if we get done at 2:30, we'll be done at 4:30, whatever, you know. But kind of schedule that into your day, and if you could look at or bring a schedule of dates that'll work for you that November and December time period. So we tried, the ideal, and Rick, you've done a lot of these with me, but the ideal is I would much rather have 1 month of a weekly meeting if we have to and just knock it out
Get it over with.
than deal with 5 months of 1 meeting a month. That's the ideal.
4 a.m. every Monday.
4 a.m.?
Every Monday.
Okay. So if you would come, and we can adjust that, but if we, you know, and in all honesty, if you guys would rather stay for 4 hours on November 3rd, I don't care. I'd rather just get it done, but I can tell you a 2-hour window is about the max that you want to listen to me talk about something.
Yeah, you don't know, you know what I like to do.
You and I like to just get it done.
over with.
Most people aren't like that. I would agree with Rick, but, and once we get going, I know it seems kind of daunting, but I will usually, what I'll do between now and November, I will have kind of a layout or edits. Here's some suggestions.
Okay, sorry.
We would have those for the next meeting, and I usually do them in, do you guys want printed? Some people prefer the, you know, printed edits.
Yep.
And then I usually bring them up and you can write on them and we can make edits as we're going through it. Is kind of how I like to do it, because it just is easier. So that's the plan.
Perfect.
We have a lot,
Sounds exciting.
doesn't it?
I just want to see the remote control.
Is there, we ready to move on?
Can't do much.
Is there anything from anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to us? You've been waiting a long time for this.
That's
deal.
okay.
This ought to be good.
I'm retired. I got plenty of time. This leads into, you guys are talking about traffic safety. This is the Cluse plat, and I talked to Brad Cluse a long time ago, and he said he wanted to where that orange X is. He approached planning and zoning about putting his road there, and he said that he was told he has to do 150-foot straightaway on that corner. And I thought, well, and so that's why he did the road the way it is. with what's been allowed out there, 14% grades, that doesn't meet highway traffic safety standards to begin with. And if he would have been allowed to put, say, a 70-foot straightaway, you need enough straightaway to get a semi in there to make a turn. Basically, the only semis you're gonna have in and out of there is, people coming in with a moving van, or when they bring in the semi-loads of rafters and lumber, and that's about it. Otherwise, it's gonna be mixer trucks, and you know how long a mixer truck is, TJ. So, I just wanted to bring this to your attention, because I've constantly been here talking about traffic safety and what happens, and you talk about accidents, and where that red or that orange X is, that's on a hill on a blind corner. And where his road is down below. They filled it in and straightened it out and leveled it out some, which made it somewhat safer. But where that orange X is, you could have put a three-way corner there. I mean, you could have stop signed up in three directions, because if you go straight south, you run into a dry dam, a dry.
Is this going back to the highway department?
It's not a county road. He's not gonna look at it for county safety.
Alan's gonna be very hesitant, if I may, Mr. Chairman, to weigh in on these issues that don't impact a county road.
Gotcha. Understand.
Quite a few of us have been out there and looked at these roads. That's why I voted no today. I'm not happy with either one of his roads coming on to Frontier Loop. They both have issues.
The problem is the road district signed off on it.
Homeowners Association,
Yeah,
we don't have a road district.
Yeah.
Okay,
They, they wanted, there's a road agreement for maintenance between Coast Development and Spruce Mountain, and that's what was required, and they did that. I'm not part of the homeowners association, so.
Well, this was my question, had this been cleared up, the safety issue?
The safety issue is not, but that's the thing is, you guys approved a preliminary plat based off of that long ago. They built it to the specifications that this board approved. That's the end of the story. I mean, it's already been done. You've approved it. I don't know how you can go back and tell a developer, I'm undoing what we already approved.
Well, I think the gentleman would suggest that the county would take on that first half mile of road, that would be the shared road, is that the point?
Well, I brought that up at the county commissioners meeting also, and the only reason I brought that up is just because of the huge amount of traffic that's gonna be on that road once that development is completed.
That still doesn't
That doesn't
take in the
alleviate.
safety concerns at all,
No.
whether the county's maintaining it or private is.
So how would we have fixed it, Bob?
Those roads needed to be put in different spots.
Mr. Chair, yeah, so Amber, help me to remember, so, they had an engineer design the roads, or did the engineer, sign off on the site distances if that's what an issue is, for example?
No, because the county doesn't look at site distances because it's not a county maintained road, so there isn't any site distance requirement.
But would the engineer, would they theoretically have applied those principles, in their design, or not necessarily?
We don't have site distance in our subdivision ordinance. That's a highway, it's a highway department requirement, which this is not a highway.
Had it been coming out onto a county road, Alan would have denied both of them.
Yes.
I think.
I've seen them.
It met our ordinance, correct?
It meets our ordinance, and the other thing to keep in
For
mind
design, I think.
Alan did request him to change the location to that map.
They had to change it to where it's at now, because when they put it in the first time, it was right where a culvert was. There's a culvert that drains there into Spruce Mountain. The road was gonna cover the culvert basically. So they basically had to move the road, I don't know how many feet to the south.
So what do we do to fix it?
I don't think there is.
I don't know that you can, because we follow our ordinance,
Yeah.
and that's our purpose, that's
No,
our pay
it's just
grade.
an unfortunate.
But you were talking about traffic safety,
Yeah.
and this is an exact.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, maybe, I'm just thinking out loud here, maybe the thing is to add in the subdivision rules, not only rules regarding grades and top and stuff, is that the engineer has to do an as-built or a certification that it meets AASHTO
The
standards.
AASHTO standards is what Alan has referred to in the past, is
Site distances and things.
that's a different set of standards, but we don't have those. That's his standard.
It's
Like
not
when he's
part,
building a county road, he has to meet it's AASHTO standards.
And that would have fixed this, the AASHTO standards would have fixed this.
I'm thinking
That's
that
the only
maybe,
thing I can think of is because then that is his standards when he's building a county road that he would have to meet.
if the site distance is the issue, I think AASHTO standards probably would have helped that.
Is that something that we would look at and add to our ordinance for these things, or?
That's kind of why this whole, like why I have it on the list
All
of
stuff we gotta figure out.
road stuff is those are all things that, is there a better way to do it? I don't know at this point.
Put a roundabout there.
Yeah.
I like
About
it,
that.
sorry.
I do too.
Watertown.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan.
I'm gonna take a bale of hay and put a roundabout up Crow Peak Road.
I think you could probably talk to Alan, talk to an engineer and get some opinions about, you know, the pros and the cons of adding AASHTO standards to the subdivision rules and requiring that to be incorporated into the design features.
Except
So-
Alan's not gonna be here. Be nice to talk to the new guy, whoever that will be.
We've only had one applicant. I got an idea who it's gonna be.
We've only had one, Bruce?
One.
Oh.
Oh, my.
Then I got
To you?
who that is. Okay.
One.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
Mr. Polite,
Not a problem, thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
but we sure love having you here. We gotta have somebody in the audience.
Out of 85 in Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
How
Yeah, oh, yeah.
do what?
That'd be real nice.
Even if we do develop these standards or adopt them or whatever, how do we enforce that if we don't?
That's an issue with a lot of things.
Well, it all becomes down to how much do we wanna control the roads in subdivisions? Do we wanna make them county roads or not county roads? If they're not county roads, then,
Well, I guarantee
yeah, we're not
these
gonna have
guys don't want
county
to go
roads.
county road.
No.
You know.
No, we don't.
No, not a county road, but there should be
We can't afford it
suitable
anymore.
standards to make them fairly safe,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, absolutely, but how do we send our building inspector out to look at it? I mean, how do we
I think
facilitate this?
hire, yeah, someone that's.
Normally, for how, so people have a tendency to forget. I only have about 5 active subdivisions. I know it seems like we have a bunch, but we don't. There's just a lot of building going on. Most of the roads are completed, we don't have a lot. You could budget accordingly, or budget and know we might have to do a supplement at the end, depending on the year, you know how that works, depending on the year. And say, we need an outside source. So it's no different than when Bruce needs help with a legal matter, we'll hire an outside attorney to come in and work on just, you know, that
Alan does
particular
it
thing.
regularly for his
Alan
road
does
projects.
it for interstate. You don't have them on staff, because in all honesty, I don't think the county needs to pay a $200,000 bill to or as an actual
Yeah.
employee, because we don't see it that much. But I do think we are at a point that sometimes you need to give some ability to say, we need to hire some outside help to look at something. But if I have to do that every single time, it takes time. So we get a subdivision request, I don't wanna have to wait till the end of the month to say, well, commissioners, can I hire an outside source to look at this thing that I got a month ago? And I think that's kinda what Alan does, if he has like he knows he can hire, if he has a road problem.
Of course.
He can go to interstate and hire him to come look at something.
It's an easy.
Yeah,
It's easy.
that's probably what needs to occur.
But you could get a set budget and then have an engineering firm on retainer that you could
I think
refer
that's
that
kinda
to
how Alan has,
without having to go through commission approval.
I think.
I think, probably what we really need to do is make sure that the ordinance allows us to recapture that fee. Either if we're gonna recapture it, we have to have it specifically in there, or is the county just gonna eat that cost as a part of just doing business?
No, we need to capture it.
And I think that's where, what I've seen in other, kind of like, on a contract basis, kind of similar thing, that you would have something in there that says at the full cost of the developer, and I think we actually have the language to allow it, we've just never utilized it.
All right, we need to do it.
So, I think it would help us on all aspects.
Or start sending Julie out to
And we
inspect.
probably, in all honesty, I would say we need to talk to some engineers in Rapid City, not one of our current, I don't think we should use a local engineer because we work with them all the time. I think it should be an outside source that would just review something. We wouldn't have somebody here review somebody else's.
That doesn't set well with the general public when you hire from outside of our community. Just letting you know.
Yeah, and perhaps the idea is to distinguish it, this is third-party review, right, you know, because you are giving business to a lot of the local folks, and so it just makes sense in those limited instances to do it. It would never be anything terribly
It's not to
expensive.
design something, you're still gonna hire,
but
it's
you
just a
know what I'm
third-party
saying.
review.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if you would in this scenario, cause I've talked to quite a few of
Oh, I
them that
catch it
said,
all the time.
no, I'm talking maybe, but not from your local engineers that are doing the business. We don't have
No.
enough of them to do it.
Perceptions.
They would use somebody from Rapid as more neutral.
Yeah, more
compared to their
neutral.
Competition here.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. Common perception is they don't like.
The problem is we have about 5 engineers and I see stuff from every single one of them monthly. I mean. Okay.
And
For
who's-
November
what
3rd.
company is the golden boy with, engineer? The one that always makes everything's perfect? Really? Huh,
Oh,
Adam Thompson. He's not an engineer, he's a surveyor.
okay, whatever.
Him and Bill Moss.
Well, Moss
They
is
do
always
this
been
stuff
good.
the way you want it, Amber.
Adam does a very good job on their stuff, and Bill is, but,
Bill learned from Walker. And
yeah,
Walker
they all
was
came
good.
from the same tree. Jim Walker was one of the
Yeah.
top-notch surveyors that we had, and
He's meticulous.
and you can tell it in the way that those guys have been trained.
Are we done?
I'm done.
Motion to adjourn?
More in the audience.
So moved.
No?